My name is Sheza.
And my name is Shahnoor. And today we're going to be making homemade chocolate chip cookies.
During this time, it's very important to stay occupied off technology, and baking is a very therapeutic way to keep yourself occupied.
This recipe is very fun to make, so I hope you guys enjoy.
So these are all the ingredients that we're going to be using to make these chocolate chip cookies. So to start, we have 3/4 cups of brown sugar, 3/4 cups of white sugar, and then we have 2 cups of all-purpose white flour, and then 1 stick of unsalted butter, but salted butter works fine too.
So here we have 2 cups of chocolate chips, 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda.
And then over here we have your standard spoons and cups to use that we are going to be using for this whole entire video. Before you start baking, remember to preheat your oven to 375 degrees. Before we even start baking, on a very important note, the coronavirus has taught us to wash hands, and that's very important, especially at this time. So before we start baking, I'm going to properly demonstrate the right way to wash your hands. So you're going to take a little of disinfecting soap, and you're going to start by rubbing the soap all over your hands like you usually would do. But you really want to go on the top of your hands and make sure you're getting every single part of your hands. Because I feel like a lot of people don't remember that we forget a lot of parts of our hands where there still might be bacteria. So with this, you want to spend about 20 to 30 seconds washing your hands. So you want to go to the bottom, and then you want to go in between your fingers, really making sure you get everything out. And then something very important is that our fingers hold a lot of bacteria and we don't notice that because we're always holding something. So it's very important to disinfect each one very thoroughly. Yeah, and that's it. Pretty easy.
Another thing to remember is if you don't have any hand soap nearby, you can use hand sanitizer. But just remember, hand sanitizer is extremely flammable, so please be careful. And what you can also do is you can add a little bit of aloe vera, and what it does, it protects it and moisturizes your hands a bit more. Now back to the recipe. In a large mixing bowl, we have 2 eggs, and we're going to add sugar, butter, and lastly, 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence.
And you're going to whisk that very nicely and make sure there aren't many lumps. Okay, now over here we have the flour, the salt, and the baking soda. I have it in a smaller mixing bowl. And then we're going to add the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. So I'm just going to give it a really good mix. And something really important here is that when we're gonna add these, you wanna add them in parts. You don't wanna add it all in once, or the dough is gonna get very lumpy and it's not gonna look very nice at the end, and you're gonna have a harder time trying to fold all the ingredients together. So now that we have whisked very nicely, we're gonna slowly add the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. So I think about like 1/4 of the mixture is nice. Now that we have all the flour mixed into the wet ingredients, it should become this consistency. You don't want it to be too creamy and you don't want it to be too thick because the chocolate chips will make everything go together very nicely. So you want it to be this very doughy, foldable consistency. So Shahnoor, will you add the chocolate chips? So now what you want to do here is fold the chocolate chips in all the way. So now that the cookie dough is all ready, we're going to be placing it into the baking sheet. I'm going to take about a tablespoon of my cookie dough. I'm going to take it into a spoon. Some people decide to use a scooper, but I like to be more messy. So if you don't like the consistency, you can always put oil or butter in your hands to make it come together. So you want it to be about this big. If you like them bigger, that's your preference, just bake them longer. So they should be about this big. You can press them down a little. We're gonna be doing the same exact thing. If you don't wanna make a certain amount of cookies, you can always put them in the refrigerator or the freezer to bake the next day or the next week. Just put it in the freezer. So again, I'm taking a tablespoon As you can see, it's a bit sticky, but I have oil in my hands. It helps it come together. Also, an important thing to know is that you want them to be about 1 inch to 2 inches apart. You don't want them to be, for example, this is too close. You want it to be farther apart, like about that, because you don't want the cookies to get together unless you want to make a whole entire cookie cake, which is what we're not trying to achieve. As you can see, the cookies are ready, 2 inches apart. So now that our oven is preheated to 375 degrees, we're gonna put these in the oven for about 12 to 16 minutes. So you'll know when they're ready when they get golden brown, light golden brown on the outside. You wanna make sure you don't overcook them. So maybe even take them out, check the bottom. You just don't wanna overcook them because nobody likes an overcooked cookie.
I hope you guys try this recipe out, and just remember, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep Corona out of the house. Thank you.
Bye.